And away we go. It is the live nightcap. 2 live shows, 1 night here on BearcatJournal.com. You got instant post-game reaction from George in the Jungle. And let's do it again. Let's run it back. We'll do a live nightcap tonight to recap the Bearcats' 81-77 overtime victory over TCU. This show, as always, brought to you by Galactic Fried Chicken. www.galacticfriedchicken.com. Go to the website, get the app, go to the app, and they will deliver right to your front door, pretty much anywhere inside the 275 loop. Or you can go down to Dayton, Kentucky, tell them to pump it up, and save yourself 15% off of your order Wednesday through Sunday, lunch and dinner. So tomorrow, you want to celebrate? Go down to Galactic Fried Chicken and tell them to pump it up, and they will get you taken care of. Hi, Aaron.
Yo.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. I think my nerves have settled now that I got to laugh and hang out with George for an hour. And
that's always good for the nerves to hang out with George for an hour.
Yeah, he's good for some stories.
Yeah. I saw him up above me losing his mind for most of the game. So
yeah. Well, good on him for it.
Let me get this.
Yep, I just finished
putting
mine out as well.
Boy, there's a lot to get to. I had the chance, and my dogs are going to be barking the entire night. They were cooped up for 6 hours, so they're going to be playing in the living room. So I'll do what I can.
All right,
there we go. 81-77 overtime. That was one of the wildest games to ever be played at Fifth Third Arena. We'll start from the beginning. I don't know that I've ever seen a team start a game like that.
Which one?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know that I've ever seen a team put up at 13-22. So 6 minutes and 44 seconds into the game, TCU had 26 points. And the insane part is Cincinnati struggled offensively in terms of they turned it over too much. They let TCU kind of do what TCU does. They turn you over, they play in transition, they score. And I mean, in the first 6 minutes, Cincinnati had scored 16 points, which normally, like, that is an incredible start. Before you get to the second TV timeout, you got 16 points. You've made 6 of 7 shots. You're feeling really good about life. Oh, wait, you're down 10.
Mm-hmm.
You're down 10, which it just felt like a little bit, okay, this team has grinded their way through these first 3 Big 12 games. And I've said it. I don't know that I'm ready to make them the favorite. And especially, it's hard to say that after a loss. But I like TCU night in, night out, their consistency as much as anybody in this conference. And we saw that tonight with the way that they can score, how many options they have, how many ways that they can make it really difficult for your defense. But to answer the bell like that team did, Wes used 2 timeouts. People love using timeouts. Wes used 2 timeouts in that first stretch. And then from they had 26 points in the first 6.5 minutes, and they ended up with 33 at halftime. They scored 7 the other 14 minutes of the first half. That makes me love this team. Because they got blitzed. I mean, they got absolutely blitzed in every way possible to open this game. And then for the next 13 plus minutes, they hold TCU to 7 and allow themselves to get back in the game to have it a 1-point game at halftime.
Yeah. It was such a frustrating game though, because it seemed like anytime Cincinnati would get a stop or do something amazing, they'd turn the ball over or just have a dreadful offensive possession, and or they'd have an excellent offensive possession and then give something up on the other side. They just were never able to separate. Even when they were holding TCU later I think it was in the second half, for a 5-minute stretch where they didn't score. Again, we see another long, crazy stretch where the defense holds a team that can really score scoreless. But Cincinnati is also not able to score in that same stretch, and it's just maddening.
Yeah. Well, that's this league, though, man. Like, the thing that's hard for people to grasp coming out of 10 years in the American is that almost every team in this league is good on both ends of the floor. So there are going to be stretches where the other team is playing great defense, the same as you're playing great defense, and they hold you, and it's like two boxers standing in the middle of the ring where like nobody can square somebody up, right? And then all of a sudden,
a Floyd Mayweather fight.
Well, but then all of a sudden, everybody's just landing haymakers, and people are just punching the shit out of each other. Like,
so
it's
nothing like a Floyd Mayweather fight.
Right. Like it's both. Both happened in this game. It went from Floyd Mayweather to like Mike Tyson. That like somebody posted this, and I want to check it, Aaron. TCU ended with 67.
67 what?
With 9 minutes left in the game, they had 58. They scored 9 points over the final 9 minutes. So the defense, Cincinnati's defense, did over the final 9 minutes exactly what you dream of, and they were able to force it to overtime, which maybe as crazy a final 5 seconds of a game as you're ever going to see. Dan gets fouled on a rebound, goes to the free throw line with an opportunity to go up 2, misses both.
Well, stop. Takes a free throw, and then there's a delay in the game.
I don't know. I didn't think that was allowed. Like, once that first free throw is shot, isn't anything that happened before it dead?
Look, I have no idea what the rules are. I've never seen anything like that in my entire life. It was absolutely bananas.
Yeah. Hunter, thank you. This team has grit, fight, guts, stones, cojones, onions, whatever you want to call it. We got it. Bottom line, they're Bearcats. We belong in the story. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Because TCU was on the verge of blowing this thing open in the first half, up 11. In the second half, up 8 or 9, or again, like, I mean, I'm in there right now. I can see exactly up 9 with 10 minutes left. Emmanuel Miller makes a jumper to go up 56-47, 10:07 left in the game. And what? Cincinnati outscores them 20-11 down the stretch to send it to overtime. I can't say enough about the toughness.
Led by Day Thomas, and you did it.
Give him his flowers. Give him his flowers, Aaron.
He played far and away better than Jizzle. He deserved to be on the floor for every minute he played tonight. His defense was phenomenal. His offense was even better. He still does some things that makes the arena and all the viewers at home scratch our heads. Like when you cock back to go dunk, and because you did earlier, and then you realize mid-flight that TCU is coming, flying at you, and you go up for the layup instead and put it like 3 feet off the top of the backboard. I don't even know where that was going. You ain't got that one in your bag. But outside of that, I mean, he still has some turnovers that I'm like, what the hell are you doing? But all in all, look, both point guards still. Jizzle, while he did not have the night that Day had, they collaborated for 10 assists tonight, and I don't think they've come close to that number the entire season.
What have I said the entire time? You need them both to be good because they are still both in their first season at this level. And there are going to be ups and downs for both. And when one is up, he can cover for when the other is down. And look, we're going to experience this for 14 more games. Like, I'm trying to get people to understand this. I have not picked, let me make this clear. I have not picked Day over Jizzle. A lot of people have picked Jizzle over Day. They hate Day. Like, go through my mentions tonight.
I'm not
hate
saying you. I just want to put that out there. I still think Jizzle is a better. He's got a higher ceiling. I think he's going to have a better career.
We have to deal with the present, not what Jizzle is as a junior, which is going to be one of the best guards in the country, I think. Right now, you have to have both because it increases your odds that one of them is going to play well. And hopefully, Aaron, you know what the ultimate goal is? You get games where both play well. We haven't seen that.
We're not ready for that. Come on.
We haven't seen that yet.
What would we argue about if both of them were playing really, really well?
Day tonight was excellent. Was he perfect? No. Was he the second best player on the floor for Cincinnati tonight throughout the game? Yes. So
second to John Newman,
who is, you guys know what I like. You guys know what gets my juices flowing as a basketball junkie. And it's watching John Newman play right now because it is out of this world. How hard he's playing, how well he's playing. He is taking the assignment of the best player on the other team, and he is relishing it. He is embracing it. He understands we are in the best league in America, and the other team is going to have, an elite level player every night in this league. And it is my job to take care of that guy. Aaron, I'm going to put him in a conversation I don't put anybody in. I have not put anybody in this conversation in the 16 years I've been doing this. He is in the Rashad Bishop conversation for me.
Woo!
I don't do that to anybody. And what I mean by that is you just feel comfortable knowing he's going to do. Those guys, you're playing against elite players. Those guys are going to make some shots. They're going to make some plays. But everything that they get is going to be earned when John Newman draws that assignment. And he not only did that tonight, but he hit shots. He made plays. He made 2 free throws. He rebounded. He passed. He did everything you could possibly want your leader to do. Can you go for a minute so I can take this puppy out so she doesn't take a dump in my house?
Sure.
Okay, good. Give it a minute. Talk John Newman for a minute. Your impression of John Newman tonight.
I'm not going to do an impression, but I will give you my impression. That said, 20 points. He finishes -3 somehow in the plus-minus analytic, which is absolutely bananas to me. I'm not certain how that even happened. But he played 32 minutes. I don't know. I mean, just he fills up the stat sheet. And tonight, while he hasn't been this offensively all season, he's obviously got it in his bag. When he finishes 20 points, 7 rebounds, an assist, credited with 2 steals. I felt like he probably caused more turnovers than that, but there's not a stat exactly for that. But he's just a disruption, and he even got the redemption song at the end there, as his free throws, some say, cost Cincinnati the game against Texas, and here he was in kind of a similar situation tonight, and was able to seal the victory rather than watch the other team get to celebrate a winning.
Hey, here's a message to the idiots that are still talking about West saying free throws don't matter after the Texas game. He was not saying free throws don't matter. He was laying down on the tracks for his guy, his leader, his veteran that had just missed the front end of a 1-on-1 that probably cost them the game. Of course, no coach in the country is going to say free throws don't. That's not what he was saying. What he was saying was we should have been in a better position to win that game to where it didn't come down to 2 free throws from John Newman. He was trying to give his guy confidence. So guess what I asked John Newman tonight? Did you hear that? Did you hear Wes say it?
I heard John talking about that's my guy. I didn't get to hear the West presser yet, but I heard John.
Yeah. Who verified, I heard Coach sticking his neck out for me, and that meant something to me. That helped me get through the fact that I went up there and I missed those 2 free throws that potentially cost us a game. He was incredible on Emmanuel Miller. They did a great job on him. The only time he really got going, it felt like they tried to sneak a couple minutes of CMOS on him, and Emmanuel Miller's just too athletic for CMOS. Like that's not a CMOS problem. That is reality, right? But John did a great job on him. You know who else did a great job on Emmanuel Miller?
Vic?
No, but Vic did too. There was actually 3 guys that spent the majority of the
Josh
night.
Reed.
And then Josh Reed. So one thing that Wes talked about at the end of the Texas game was that maybe we used John too much. And at the end of the game, he was worn down because he had been chasing, I can't forget their other, it wasn't A. Smith, it was their other guard. I forget his name. But he had been chasing that guy around, and then you get to the end, and he had played like 37 minutes or whatever it was against Texas, and he was worn down. They played an overtime game tonight. John Newman only played 32 minutes. Josh Reed, baby, you're right. Why was John able to get away with only playing 32 minutes, and they were still able to defensively hold up? It's
from
because
his own
Josh,
mouth.
Yeah,
from his own mouth. He said that he feels confident that if anyone on the roster is going to be subbing him out and coming into the game, it's Josh Reed, because he feels confident that Josh Reed can handle whoever that he's running around with as the defender of the best player on the team at any given moment.
Well, and this is a massive step for the future because you have to have that guy on your team. You have to have that guy in this league that here's the assignment, go get it done. And Josh is now accepting that assignment and excelling in it. And that's how you get more minutes. I mean, you're right, Thrifty. Josh went from out of the rotation. When the 2 bigs got eligible, everybody assumed the guy that was going to see his minutes eliminated was Josh Reed.
I did.
And now he played 17 minutes against a top 20 team and was a critical factor in how that game played out. Kudos to Josh, and kudos to John, because John has mentored him. Josh went to John, from what I know. Josh went to John and said, "Teach me the ways, Yoda. Teach me the ways." Did you shave your head? Do you still have hair under there?
I still have hair. It's
Okay.
just back. It's
Okay.
back.
I didn't know if you just went full scale, like
No.
Okay. But Day and John tonight, like that's one of the fun parts of this team is each game it feels like there's a different chapter in the book of this season, and somebody that maybe struggled 2 or 3 games ago that people were down on is now stepping up. And look, we all know, Aaron, this team doesn't have an alpha, right? They do not have a best player. They do not have this guy is a projected NBA draft pick or like first team all conference, candidate, whatever it is. They don't have that on this roster yet. So it's going to have to be done as kind of a collection. And boy, through 4 games, give us the stat. Give us the Brent Young stat.
I gave it on the show with George here on George in the Jungle, but the Brent Young stat, as our esteemed colleague pointed out, in each of the last 5 games, a different player has led the team in scoring. Day Thomas had 21 tonight. Dan Skillings had 24 versus Baylor, dubbing himself Baylor Dan as opposed to Stetson Dan. Simas Lukosius had 19 versus Texas. Vic had 17 versus BYU. John Newman had 16 versus Evansville. There is a different guy stepping up every night, and I think that's one of the things when you don't have an alpha. You don't have games from Day and John Newman like you had tonight, where they both put up 20 points each. Those 2 guys combined for 41 of your 81. 50% of the points on this team were scored by Day and John, 2 guys who were struggling offensively over the course of, if you look at the last, I guess, basically conference play as a whole,
John was basically non-existent offensively at Baylor. Day was okay. It was better in that game than he had been. But John almost didn't exist in the Baylor game.
And that was one of the things that I talked about was we needed to get those early points from John that he gives, a quick 4 or 6 at the beginning of each half. Or at the end of each half, like he had been doing. He doesn't really do much in the middle, but tonight he did it all.
And it was offense and defense. It was, everything you could ask for against a team. TCU does have Emmanuel Miller has kind of become that like top of the roster guy for them. But you talked about it to me like before we jumped on, like how difficult it, like you've watched them but you hadn't paid attention to what I was talking about from watching them a little closer, like getting ready for this game. And they just come at you in waves. They got 5 guys that have 1,000 points in their college career. They got 6 or 7 guys on that roster that just can flat out score, man. And to be able to hold them to 7 points over a 12-minute, actually over what a 14-minute stretch, 13-minute stretch in the first half, and 9 points over the final 9 minutes of the second half. That is impressive defense from this Cincinnati team. TCU is really fucking good, Aaron. Really good.
They are that. And we got to see it up close and personal all the way until the end of overtime, and then the fans still hadn't had enough, so they rushed the floor.
Good for them. Good for them. I love it. Like, I don't think that was like, I think that was everybody was just so in, like that game was so tense. And this is something I wondered when they redid the arena. Joe Daneman from Fox 19 asked me, like, when's the last time they stormed the court? And honestly, I don't remember it, because if you remember, and you'll probably remember this, Aaron, in the old arena, they had those like those 5-foot railings.
Yeah.
That separated the student section from the floor.
Right.
In the new arena, the student section is on the floor. Like,
correct.
It just opens up onto the floor. So there hasn't been a reason since the new arena opened to storm the floor. But everybody just got excited and just ran onto the floor. I loved it.
I understand why some of the old heads and as somebody who generally enjoys yelling at clouds, I understand where some people are coming from. That said, I'm all for the fact that you rushed the floor. I don't know that it needs to be a regular thing, but I think that the fact that it was your first Big 12 win, it was your second win over a ranked opponent this season, and you did it in overtime. You did it in the fashion that you did it. And I mean, most of these kids, God bless them, they grew up through grew up through COVID.
Right.
And they had nothing to be excited about. They couldn't even go to sports events through high school and college, like some of high school or college. So let them be excited, man. They've had some of the worst years that I could ever imagine to have as a kid growing up. So I'm here for it. So
I feel like Jesse, and it was 90s night, so this is appropriate, Jason. There's a lot of people in here that aren't going to understand this reference. But he said, I feel like Jesse Spano every game in the Big 12. I'm so excited. I'm so scared. Which is
nice hug from Zach Morris.
Yeah, which is for those that don't know, is a Saved by the Bell reference where Jesse took caffeine pills, I believe.
Speed.
Yeah. Well, I think it was actually just caffeine pills that in the 90s was considered speed. Now people take caffeine pills like they're TikToks. They're Tic Tacs. Not
TikToks, you say, huh?
Tic Tacs.
You've never sounded so old.
I know. And this is absolutely true, Thrifty. It's a big moment for the program. First home Big 12 win and the biggest home win since Mick. Yeah, for sure. Everybody, it felt like a release, Aaron, didn't it? Like it just felt like a release of like
you finally got it was like an elusive white whale, right? We've been talking about, is Wes ever going to get the big win? And BYU was a pretty big win, don't get me wrong. But to finally
but it was on the road at 10 o'clock on a Saturday night. Like,
right. You did it at home.
There were 300 people in this room storming the floor after the Big 12 season opener, Aaron.
I have this stat for you, Chad, and I don't know. I can't verify this. This came from Daniel Eager. It was one of the comments on George in the Jungle.
And actually, I think Jeff Borzello tweeted this, and Daniel repurposed it.
Fair enough. But I didn't know where it came from, so I didn't want to speak out of turn, I guess.
Yeah,
but
I saw the Borzello tweet in between shows.
He said, wildest stat I've ever seen. The last time Cincinnati lost an overtime game to a ranked team was 1994. This is the 12th straight overtime win against a ranked team, the longest streak in AP poll history.
By a wide
That's
margin.
Insane.
The end of Borzello's tweet said by a wide margin. Hunter, he said, I can't help myself. This team took a haymaker to the mouth tonight in the beginning. I mean, they went 9 of 10. They scored 26 points in 6 minutes. They were halfway to 100 before the second, or a quarter of the way to 100 before the second media timeout. They took an absolute Mike Tyson knockout punch in the first 6-7 minutes of this game. They looked TCU dead in the eyes, smiled, and asked if that was their best shot. I love that fighting spirit. Absolutely. They weren't even born yet when Hugs was here. You're right.
The announcers.
Go ahead.
The announcer said it was one of the loudest environments they'd been in a long time. How loud did you feel that it was, and when was the last time you felt like it got that to that level of energy?
I mean,
A
the Texas
shootout?
game was there. I
Yeah.
thought they just didn't win the game. Like the energy in that building was off the charts. The shootout always brings that as long as it's, like when Dave hit that 4-point play to tie that game, that place lost its goddamn mind a couple years ago. But yeah, you remember it different after a win, right? Like after a loss, you just, I was actually joking with Brent on the way back to the car. It's a pretty long walk to the garage from the arena. After a win, it's cold, but it doesn't feel as cold. After a loss, you're walking a little slower. Like, you got to come home and you got to deal with a chat room with, 150 people in it that are looking for their pound of flesh. It gets a little colder in those scenarios. Tonight, it was like 10 degrees. It felt pretty good. And Thrifty Walrus, I agree. Crazy idea. Basketball, sports are, I say this all the time, sports are supposed to be fun. If you watch sports to be miserable, I don't understand you. I don't get where you're coming from. I don't get your perspective. If you watch sports and what you get out of it is being miserable, like why do it? Why do that to yourself? I don't like it. Doesn't click with me.
We're all Cincinnati fans here, so I mean, we could all ask ourselves that question.
Yeah, but I'm a Cincinnati fan. I've grown up in it my entire life. Like when they lose, yeah, I'm upset for a little bit. I like the Reds are the one thing I get that I don't have to like. The Bengals are during football season, so like there's so much going on with Bearcat Journal during football season that I don't really get to like be a Bengals fan. So win or lose, whatever happens with the Bengals doesn't not like it does. It doesn't impact me like it does you.
That's fair.
The Reds, it's the summer. Like I don't have a lot going on. You've got AAU tournaments, but there's nothing like to be a fan of really in those times. So I get to be a fan of the Reds. And they frustrate me. They make me mad as hell. But when they blow a game, like, okay, well, whatever. They're going to play again tomorrow. I just don't get like watching sports to be miserable. My dad does it. I mess with my dad all the time. He was convinced, 26-16, UC was going to lose by, TCU was going to keep that pace and UC was going to lose 154 to 83.
I would have thrown up. I would have called in sick.
The ugly Butler game. I remember that. The Big 12 tournament's going to give me a heart attack. It's hard enough during the regular season. Look, I mean, TCU was the hottest team in the league. They lost tonight. There was another big loss tonight, wasn't there? Yeah, Baylor lost to Kansas State. Like every night that there are games in this league, there's going to be a result that you go, ooh, didn't expect that one. BYU. Did they end up? I didn't see the final score on that. They were thumping Iowa State. I think they won by 12 or something.
I had it. It's right here. Baylor loses by 4 to Kansas State. Kansas beats Oklahoma by 24. Sheesh. And BYU wins by 15.
Oklahoma State.
Iowa
Kansas
State.
beats Oklahoma State by 24. Then BYU by 15 over Iowa State. That's a ranked top 20 Iowa State team that has played great.
Yeah.
And BYU, I think, was without Nell. Trevor Nell.
I can tell you if he had any stats. Yeah, he did not play.
So yeah, I think he was out with an injury. So yeah, and they beat Iowa State by 15. You never know in this league what's coming next. You have to just keep grinding and playing well. And this is maybe what makes me feel best about this team so far, Aaron. They could have down 9 with 3.5 minutes left against Baylor on the road. Didn't have it tonight.
Right.
Lose by 11. It just looks like another stat in the book, right? Of the Big 12 season. And instead, they have 2 shots inside 20 seconds to take the lead. And then tonight, down 11 in the first half, down 9 in the second half. Keep coming. Just keep grinding, keep playing. They didn't get too high. They didn't get too low. They had a couple bad stretches. Like you said, the part that drives you nuts as a fan, which is that's being a fan. That I'm not coming at you for that. Like,
right.
Being a fan is being frustrated when your team plays great defense for 6 minutes and the score doesn't change. Right? Like that's
it's maddening. Yeah.
I get it. But they keep grinding. They keep playing. Like, you know what that also says, Aaron? That's a team that has bought in on their head coach.
Sure.
That's a team that is going to the huddle and listening to what their head coach says and, that being consistent, being regular instead of the wild. Like, this conference can make you go on wild mood swings. You have experienced them through 4 games. Imagine being a player.
Nope. No, thank you.
So, I mean, I'm impressed that they have found that way. People have asked, right? Like, when are we going to see Bearcat basketball from Wes Miller's teams? We have seen it through every second of these 4 games, if you ask me. Am I wrong?
No, that's fair. They play defense, which is a staple in Bearcat basketball, and they put up some highlight offense.
Yeah.
I thought it was great that one of the stats that stood out to me early in the game, the Cincinnati had turned the ball over 5 times offensively, and
before BYU or before TCU had one.
Before TCU got there first. That said, TCU finished with 19. Cincinnati finished with 15.
So from that point, it was 19-10.
Right. Well, 18, 10.
Well, they had UC had 5, and Baylor had TCU had 0.
They got their first.
Committed 19-10 the rest of the way.
One of the other sets I really liked, we kind of touched on it earlier, 17 assists. I want to say that's the highest assist amount that this team has had, certainly since Big 12 play started, but maybe this season. I don't recall a game where they had that many assists.
It's up there. I think there's a couple of the bye games where they were up over 20.
Where you're scoring 100-plus points. And
where it was November and remember November, like the ball was popping and we were like, oh, shit, like this team. And then you start playing. That's what the other thing people don't like put into their brain. Oh, now we're playing top 20 defenses, top 30 defenses. It's going to be a little harder for the ball to pop all over the place.
One of the stats that drove me a little crazy, 41 rebounds for TCU compared to Cincinnati's 35, largely because of 18 offensive rebounds for TCU to Cincinnati's 9.
Almost all of them in the second half.
Well, how many were in that second, the second to last minute of the game?
It felt like 18. God. It felt like 18. Thrifty Walrus, I love this. I know I'm watching Bearcat basketball when I look up the scoreboard late in the game. It's 67-64. UC shooting 47% from the line, have given up 15 offensive boards. I hate how much I love it. Just grit, right?
It's a comfort blanket.
But this team is displaying, if you're a fan of this program, I don't know how you can't love this team. They are displaying everything that
pretty much
30
everything.
years.
Everything as a fan we've always clamored for is now here.
Right. And you're back in the big leagues. You're back playing great competition with elite talent. And these guys are stepping up and going toe to toe every night.
With everyone.
Fantastic. This was way better than the Jamie Dixon, Mick 42-43 rock fight. I tried to, at the end of the Jamie Dixon's press conference, I tried to get a zinger in on that one, and he was not interested in laughing at my joke.
Apparently, I've missed some things by doing the show with George because people are just talking about how whiny Jamie Dixon was in his post-game presser.
That's partially my fault.
Shocker.
I asked him about, like, hey, you played UC a lot when they were in the Big East and you were in the Big East and you guys ran into each other and there were a lot of games played in that era. And then he went on to talk about how the guy that the TCU arena is named after is a Cincinnati native and alum that moved to Dallas, Fort Worth or whatever. And
did you give
that's
him a
who he
thumbs
thinks
up?
about.
Like,
that's what I think about when I think about Cincinnati basketball. And then he tried to act like, oh, yeah, we used to come in here and kick Cincinnati's ass. So I was like, you don't remember the 43-42 game at Madison Square Garden? And he said, I remember that we play Iowa State next.
well,
So, yes, you do remember that 43-42 rock fight at Madison Square Garden.
At least he didn't pull a Mike Tomlin and just walk off.
Eric, it was probably my fault that was an interesting presser from Dixon. But look, man, I get it. Coaches are pissed off. And if you're Jamie Dixon, you lost that bullshit game to Kansas, right?
Yeah.
To start Big 12 play that you should have won. And then you beat Oklahoma. You beat Houston. And now I'm sure he felt like this Cincinnati team is not a upper echelon Big 12 team, and they lost to Cincinnati. I'm sure that's what they felt like coming in. Like, he was like, and I get it. He was like, John Newman killed us, and that was not on our scouting report.
How is that not on anyone? He's killing everyone.
But he meant offensively.
Oh, okay.
John was straight line driving them to the rim and getting buckets. Like,
yeah,
that was not on the previous 3 or 4 games. That was not something that John had really put on tape. But that's kind of the beauty of this team, is there's 4, 5, 6 guys that if you focus away from them, they can beat you.
We talked about that though ad nauseum in the offseason, in the out of conference, that there's dudes littered on this roster that could have 20 points on any given night.
Didn't he say his guy got cut and needed stitches? Yeah, I think he did. Like, John, I'm not going to lie. I would not have agreed with it. I fully expected a flagrant 1 to be given there.
I think they couldn't because of the contact that was initiated before that. Because if they give John a flagrant, they probably should have called the whistle before it even got to that point. That's on the ref crew.
Right.
They knew that.
That chick, and look.
Choose your words carefully.
This is a couple times we have seen Amy Bonner officiate games. She's not good. I'm all for let's get some women out there and be good at it, because I hate most of the men that officiate men's college basketball. Let's find, if they're not the answer, let's find some women that are good at it. She, to me, has let the games that I've seen, she has let the emotion of the energy of the arena, the energy of the game, impact the way that she calls the game. And that's the worst. Like, you have to be stone cold. You cannot ebb and flow officiating college.
The only
level.
gripe I had, I guess the biggest gripe I had with the officiating tonight was just there were some horrendously late whistles. You can't have whistles that come 3 seconds after the play is over.
So this has become a thing in college basketball, which drives me fucking crazy. Is that the official that can't see the play
is making the decision?
You have two officials that can see the play, right? For the most part, and it's just the nature of like a triangle. Like they work in a triangle. That's how they're designed. That's how it's organized with three officials. The one that has the worst angle, I won't say can't see the play. The one that has the worst angle on the play is where you're seeing what you're talking about, those late whistles. And just don't blow your fucking whistle. The people that had the best look at it
didn't
call anything.
Right.
And you've got the worst look at it, and you're going to blow your whistle on a play that you don't have a great view of. That drives me insane. Whether it be the one that's all the way at like the far mid-court line, and there's a play on the baseline opposite them, and there's an official standing 4 feet from the play, and nobody blows the whistle, and then a second and a half later, the person that's standing all the way over in the corner saw something that nobody else did. Give me a break. That shit drives me crazy. Yeah, that one drove me nuts too. The moving screen on the 3 with 25 seconds left. I mean, they just wiped John Newman out on a moving screen and didn't say a word. That officiating crew was bad. And I'm going to say it more comfortably because UC won. And I don't know that they were necessarily just bad in favor of UC. They were just bad. Bad.
Yeah, Jamie Dixon seemed pretty annoyed with them as well. So I don't
Yes.
Don't think it was
that was not a they were bad towards Cincinnati or they were bad towards TCU thing. That was they were bad. This one drives me crazy too, Steve. It drives to the basket. They wait to see if the ball goes in before they call a foul. Call the foul.
Yep.
Anyhow. What else you got? What else you want to talk about? Anything? Jizzle, look, let's talk about Jizzle for a second. And I'm not gonna be like, this is just the reality of it. I think the word is getting out because it looked like to me, Jameer Nelson Jr., whenever he saw that Jizzle was on him, he made it a point of like, this guy can't guard me off the bounce. And I'm going to take it right at him. And if that's the word that is out in the Big 12, Jizzle has to get in the lab and get better at defending the ball and being a better defender overall over these next 14 games. Because if he can't, I think this team struggles to reach its ceiling. They need him, Aaron. I am in agreement with everybody else. Jizzle's talent, especially offensively, is undeniable.
Yeah.
But he has to get better defending very high-level point guards in this league to stay on the floor. I want him at that 20, 21, 22-minute mark a game. Because I think this team is better if he can provide that. But right now, he's almost like the one guy, like him and Simas right now, the scout is saying attack. When you have this guy on you, attack. And that's not where you want to be in a league like this. And I think both of those guys are getting that treatment right now.
Yeah, Simas looked really bad defensively compared to everybody else on the team,
Dan was really good defensively tonight, I thought.
which is becoming a thing.
He has been inconsistent. He's becoming more consistent defensively. Josh is excellent defensively. John is one of the best defenders in the best conference in the country. They are picking on CMOS and Jizzle, and the more that continues to happen, the less you can have them on the floor. And a lot of those rebounds that happen, a lot of those offensive rebounds that happen towards the end, was CMOS not boxing out. And Wes talked about it at the end of the Baylor game, and it portrayed itself again tonight at the end of this game, especially in regulation, not putting a body on somebody. Like, there was one of those, I can't remember, it was right in the final 90 seconds. I think Kelsey could have got that rebound. Not Jason or Travis, my daughter.
According to KenPom, we are up to number 17 in defense.
They're playing great defense.
Against
great defense.
The best conference in the country.
I mean, 67 points after holding Baylor to what they did, after holding BYU to what they did. Those are outstanding offenses. And you are grinding them out. Now, TCU is not a team that makes it, like, takes and makes a lot of three-pointers, and they really didn't again tonight. They took 25 in an overtime game, which is, a pretty good number, but not like a massive number. They hit 44%, which is, better than we saw from BYU and Baylor, but they hold them to 41% from the floor. And let's do the math, Aaron. They hit 9 of their first 10 shots, right?
Yeah.
So 30 minus 9 is 21.
That's
72
correct.
minus 10, 62. 21 of 62 from the floor after that opening onslaught at 34%. Is that what that is? 34? 21 of 62? Because 63, 21 of 60.
33.8.
Yeah, 34%. Look at the big brain on Chad. That's elite defense against a team that has scorers everywhere.
Yeah.
That's another one. Top G, they average 25 a game in fast break points. UC held them to 13. They are also one of the elite points in the paint teams in the country, and UC outscored them 50-30 in the paint.
Who's starting over Jameer Nelson for TCU? Is it Anderson?
It's the guy that turned it over 6 times.
Anderson. Yeah.
3 points, 6 turnovers.
Those days have got to be numbered for TCU.
Jameer Nelson Jr. is a dog. He was outstanding tonight.
He's going to be a guy to watch in this conference.
I mean, I've made it very clear my affinity for Emmanuel Miller. Jameer Nelson is jumping up that list soon too. Kelsey said he airballed his first shot, and the crowd was on him
the whole
entire night, and that fueled him. Like he was ready to fight. The entire crowd, all 12,000, he was ready to fight tonight. I love a guy like that.
Yeah, he's going to be something special. But
all right, I don't have a whole lot. You've been going since what, like 10 o'clock?
Well, if you count watching the game, because I certainly was getting my words in.
I didn't know what time you and George got started.
We got started a little after 10:15.
Okay,
closer to 10:30.
So you're running on a long night now. Look, I love all of you. Reynolds and Seamoss struggled again. Day or not Day, but Jizzle was kind of right in there. But guess what, man? That's the fun part about having my parting thought. That's the fun part about having a roster with 10 or 11 high major players on it. It's that you don't have to rely on, like, remember last year? What did we talk about so much for last year? If Landers and Dave weren't great, they were in big trouble. And how many nights have, who would fit this bill tonight? Seamoss, 30 minutes, 2 for 6, 1 for 3. He scored 7 points. Jizzle James, 12 minutes, 1 point. Aziz Bandego, 27 minutes, 6 points, fouled out, 3 turnovers.
Jizzle did have
Seamoss.
4 assists, which was his high.
Yes, but you get my point. Like there's not, if 1 or 2 guys get taken out by the opposing team, this team's not dead.
Right.
They were dead last year. If Dave scored 6 and Landers scored 10, they weren't beating Fairleigh Dickinson. Sorry for that. I didn't. Fairleigh Dickinson took a stray there, but it's the first.
I just wonder how much better Vic would have been if you would just quit crying to the refs. Looks like Patrick Mahomes out there.
Hey, we didn't talk about that 3 he hit.
For good reason. I begrudgingly accepted it. After
you
it
cheered,
went in.
you jumped. Yes.
No, I didn't.
Yes.
I said,
you yesed it at the end. Damn it.
I said didn't want it, but we'll take it. Begrudgingly.
It was a massive shot, but to that point, he had like 7 or 8 points. Like he had not been a major factor, and then he hits one of the biggest shots of the game, and Dan makes the driving layup to win. Day hits a 3 at the end of regulation. They don't go to over. They don't make it to overtime, but Day doesn't hit that 3. What a game. Dan's layup at the end was nutty. Yeah, that's the layup he missed against Baylor. We love all you guys. 96 of you idiots in here at 1 o'clock in the morning. Bearcats win 81-77. Aaron's going to go sleep
in bed.
He's got to be up in like 4 hours with a baby.
With a child.
We'll see you tomorrow night. Oh, by the way, Aaron. Big guest on the BCJ podcast.
I'm aware.
Tomorrow night. Coach Cardwell. Coach Cardwell coming in. Let's talk some offensive line tomorrow night on the BCJ
Glass
podcast.
Eaters.
And look, Davis, I think we're going to get Dave to be able to talk about basketball tomorrow night. I think he might be excited.
Don't hold your breath.
We'll see you tomorrow night. That's the BCJ pod, or that's the nightcap. Sorry, my bad. Brought to you by Galactic Fried Chicken right here on BearcatJournal.com.
See ya.